I'm sure you'll all agree it's been a challenging market, from inflationary increases from Russia invading in 2022, which has impacted the economy, the cost of living crisis, and within that, consumer confidence. It's been a challenging time, to say the least. I'm not going to share any data that ultimately tells you what you already know or have experienced. What I'm hoping to do is shine a light on the sectors, categories and brands which are performing, with the aim that you'll be able to take something away. You all have diverse businesses, and within that have different experiences. One of the best ways that you can navigate a difficult economy is to share insights. So let's get to it. I'd like to share a handful of insights that have been taken from multiple sources. Some of you may have felt some of this, but I'd just like to quantify it. So first of all, we'll look at footfall. Footfall is down 11.5% on pre-pandemic levels, and that's predominantly driven by an overall structural change in the retail sector and a migration to online spend, which was happening before the pandemic. The pandemic has also driven changes in consumer shopping habits. Working from home, for example, has affected how and when we shop. The 7 storms in the UK between September and November, and the cost of living, which peaked in August, affected many mortgages as they came to an end, and households faced additional outgoings of up to £400. Promotional activity is becoming increasingly important, with Black Friday was higher than ever for 2023. Mintel reports that 53% of consumers bought into the promotion, up from 49% in 2022. 65% of Christmas gifts were also purchased within the Black Friday promotion, and Black Friday offers were extended from October to December, but ultimately that would have affected retailers' bottom lines. From a category perspective, jewellery and watches were one of the top gift categories for households with incomes of over £75,000. And as a category overall, MRI Springboard reports that the category is up 2% year on year, so still in positive territory. Spending on gifts for 2023 was down on average at £356 versus £376 the years before. For those of you who would have completed the CMJ's Christmas trading report will have read that the average transaction value was £366. There's also interesting information with regards to lower ticket gifting. So gifting was people who purchased gifts during Christmas would have spent less. During times of financial difficulty, we tend to spend less. 32% of those recorded through Mintel opted for a Secret Santa, and 53% agreed to not gift at all. So what does that mean for the high street, and what is there to be gained? This is a snapshot of footfall across 3 destination types by week, and the high street is in blue. Footfall was down 11% versus pre-pandemic levels. However, it was up 3.3% in a comparable 2022 full year. Consumers are utilising key seasons such as Easter to half-term to return to the high street in volume. You may have also read a recent Retail Jeweller article which focuses on return to the high street during half-term. We can see here the key points during the year where footfall has increased. So for Easter, for example, footfall was up 17%. For October half-term, 10%. Black Friday was also 10%, and Black Friday signals the start of the festive season. The week before Christmas, we obviously can't leave out, and that was up 7.9%. So what will encourage spend? When considering 2024, value and price will be a key message. Consider those key dates such as Easter, half-term, and consider your messaging around value and price. Consumers are driven by those 2 things in 2024. 46% are looking for promotions in January 2024 versus just 30% in January 2023. I'd also be keen to understand some of your thoughts over the weekend for loyalty schemes. This will grow in importance throughout the year. 40% of KPMG consumers are looking to optimise retailer loyalty schemes, which is up from just 18% in January of last year. So focusing on key seasons, as we've mentioned, which will increase high potential footfall, and consider your own marketing messages around loyalty schemes and value and price to consider if that's something you would like to push going forward. So how are consumers feeling? The GfK measures a range of consumer attitudes, including forward expectations of the general economic situation, as well as households' financial positions. It has done so since 1974. It's a key metric to understanding the financial mood of the nation because confident householders are more likely to spend despite the cost of living crisis. We can see from the graph here that confidence grew over the last 12 months, so from -45 in January 23 to -19 in January 24. -19 was also last recorded in February-March of 2022 following COVID reopening. To put those scores into context, that some of the lowest scores were recording during financial difficulty. So in July 2008 during the global financial crisis and March 1990 leading up to the 1991 recession. Interestingly as well, GfK also monitors personal finances. So for the last 12 months that has increased, but more importantly, forecasted personal finances have increased from -27 in January 23 to flat 0 for January 24. And as I mentioned, more confident householders are more likely to spend. So despite ongoing financial pressures and costs being higher, there is a general feeling of optimism, and 2024 has started on a positive note. So taking into consideration reducing inflation, but growing consumer confidence, but less footfall on the high street pre-pandemic, let's look at our industry and the product sectors to highlight the shoots of opportunity, and we'll start with watches. The GfK reports there's been a value growth of 1% in the last year, but don't get too excited, that's predominantly driven by the luxury watch market and prices. The volume of the watch market is down 10% like for like, and that will be driven by watch exports. In 2019, watch exports were at 20 million. By 2022, that had declined to 15.8 million. So that will be driving the volume decline. There is positive news within this. From a market share perspective, the independent sector is taking market share from the multiple retailers. In Q2 of last year, market share was at 16%. By Q4 of last year, the independents had taken that to 19%. There's a multitude of reasons of why that might be. However, overall, we can take confidence in the fact that consumers are increasingly happy to come to independent retailers for their watch purchases. The CMJ is also performing well from a watch perspective, and the category is up 16% year to date. We're also seeing growth from a granular perspective in regards to ladies' watches. So ladies' watches over the 500 category is performing well within the industry and is up 3.3% year to date. Men's watches remain contain the overall market share, but ladies' watches should be given more consideration when purchasing your stock. I've made a note of some brands there which are performing well from both a share and value perspective across the sector. And I can note that also Citizen and Seiko are performing well within the group and are up year to date. GfK reports that leather is gaining market share, and within the independent sector, it was up Q4 with regards to a market share metal mix perspective. They also report that metal is in decline. However, from an independent perspective, metal is still the major majority mix. So now looking at jewellery. Non-branded jewellery is growing. This isn't to take anything away from the brands. They will always have their place in the market and continue to perform well. However, with personalisation and core jewellery pieces growing throughout 2023, non-branded jewellery is growing, continues to perform well, and is up 8% year to date. This trend will continue into 2024, And I've also highlighted some key pieces which are growing in search terms. You might have noticed some of this within your stores already. So engraved necklaces, initial necklaces, gold bangles, gold earrings, and these are the percentages that they have increased in search terms online. And the cherry on the cake, in-store experiences. This category has become increasingly popular and has helped to drive footfall. We're seeing more spend in this area, and the category is also up year to date. Both permanent bracelets and piercings are a sector which are fast growing and can drive footfall into your store. Welding machines are usually portable and can be taken onto a counter if necessary, if in-store space is an issue for you. I'm sure Gemma won't mind me mentioning the success she's having in store with her permanent bracelets, and Hill & Hill, from their piercing salons perspective, it's definitely something that should be considered. Now on to the bridal market. Many of you will have benefited from the pandemic tailwinds. Venues open 7 days a week, and if that has stabilised, you're not alone. It's not your offer, it's simply how the market is. But there is still a healthy market to be had. Weddings are estimated to cost on average £25,000 for 2024, and that is an increase of 12% versus 2022. The increase is predominantly driven by catering costs as inflation pushed up prices of food and drink. With 70% of couples admitting in 2023 to seeking help from family and friends to pay for their weddings, couples will be budgeting in all areas to cut down on costs for their weddings. A controversial area, but one where confidence is growing from consumer perspective, is lab-grown diamonds. The UK data is unsubstantiated, but the US reports that in 2024, 40% of its engagement market will be taken up by synthetic stones. Nivoda reports that its split of stones is 50-50 lab versus natural, and one reason for this growing consumer confidence comes down to price. I appreciate that it's difficult for you guys to manage in store when the consumer leaves from a value and return on investment perspective, but I'm sure some of our suppliers here today would be happy to have that conversation with you guys. From a natural diamond perspective, we all know that it's been a tough year for natural diamonds. De Beers launched a multi-million-pound campaign in late 2023 to drive consumers back into the natural diamond market, and they report that the success of that will be seen late 2024 into 2025. We're all aware that natural diamonds and engagement trends are predominantly led by celebrity engagements, and with recent announcements from the likes of Millie Bobby Brown, Rebel Wilson, Nicole Scherzinger, we're anticipating to see trends in classic, did it ever really go away, the round brilliant cut, halos and hidden halos, fancy cuts from pear, oval, emerald and Twyma. And also, yellow gold has been increasing for some time. That's not going anywhere for 2024. Yellow gold will continue to trend as a metal of choice. And finally, from a marketplace perspective, consumers are looking to purchase their engagement rings in many different forms, and not only full price engagement rings. They're not looking for pre-owned engagement rings from a marketplace perspective. eBay reports that their engagement rings are up, their search engagement rings are up 220% versus last year. So to summarise the kind of shoots of opportunity, the independents are gaining market share from multiple sector. Ladies' watches over 500 should be considered. From personalisation to core jewellery boxes to in-store experiences, there's plenty to be obtained. There is a healthy bridal market, but consumers will be more price conscious. So that takes us nicely onto trends for 2024. What do we expect to see? From a macro level, bold gold. It isn't going anywhere. It will continue to trend well into 2024. We talk about core jewellery box pieces, your chains, your earrings, your pendants, and chain layering will remain as well, but you'll see many more chains with larger links if you haven't already. From a statement ring perspective, in all metals, in all fingers, including the pinky ring, if you haven't already had those inquiries, they will come through. Silver, Silver has grown in popularity over the last few years, and it's been seen on the runway from the likes of Alexander McQueen to Tom Ford, from a cuff perspective to statement jewellery. For those of you who follow the runway or the covering press will have seen that bows are everywhere for 2024, in the hair, on the handbag, clothes, and obviously jewellery. It's ultra feminine, it's chic, and it's incredibly easy to tap into from a jewellery perspective. So let's look at micro trends. I've tapped into 3 trends here. We talk first about sculptural jewellery. When we think of this, we think abstract designs, abstract bubbles. It makes a statement, and we know that statement pieces will be trending in 2024. In all metals, in all styles, it's known as wearable art. Oceanic influence, pay homage to the ocean in the way of a starfish or shell pendant or earrings. Potentially boho designs could also come into fashion slightly more as we go into the summer season also. I've also tapped into two very different athletics here as well. Those of you who follow TikTok or very heavy on social media will have already seen these. The one on the left, Mob Wife, and the one on the right, Coquette. 2 very different aesthetics, and you can tap into 2 very different consumer bases there. From the big, bold jewellery to the very delicate pieces. But it's trending on social media. It will continue to trend for the foreseeable, but then a new one will come into play also to follow that. I've then picked up on some colour palettes which are trending on the runway. So for spring-summer 2024, I've listed them there for you in case it's something you want to put into your marketing strategy for the upcoming months. But obviously we can't talk colour without talking about Pantone's Colour of the Year. Peach Fuzz, I'm sure you've all heard of it. It's more than just a pretty hue. It's carefully chosen shade that reflects the current culture and emerging trends. For marketers, it's a powerful tool that you can tap into to influence your brand's perception. And for jewellery, it translates into gemstones that include peachy pink pearls, morganite and vintage coral. We could also see a rise in rose gold, as obviously it's the closest colour to this hue. So we've discussed footfall, consumer confidence, product sectors, including trends. So what else should be on the mind for retailers going forward? Omnichannel retail. Online is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Consumers have mentioned that 58% of consumers prefer to shop online versus 40% in bricks and mortar. And that 58% has risen from 49% in May survey from MRI Springboard. Consumers want the same experience from you no matter where they're shopping. Consider social commerce from your Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, no matter where you are. They want the same experience. We've got many suppliers here today who will be able to have those conversations with you and support you on that journey. Although unconfirmed, there is a potential for a Q4 election. Now, I know that feels slightly left field and a little bit odd to have that on this slide, but during 2019, 36% of consumers said that Brexit and an election overshadowed Christmas. So it's just something for you to be aware of from a retailer perspective, because that could affect consumer confidence, and then that could also affect footfall coming into your store. And then definitely left field is artificial intelligence and its function. You will have all heard of artificial intelligence, but it's increasing in popularity for larger retailers and consumers alike. 2023 was about discovery and learning capabilities of artificial intelligence, but in 2024 and going forward, retailers can harness this technology to influence consumer purchase decisions. 18% of Mintel respondents said that they'd used AI to aid gifting for Christmas last year. That increased to 45% of those aged 16 to 34. If this sparks your interest, again, we've got digital suppliers who can support you with it. We've got Amazon who are rolling out something called Rupus, which is an AI shopping tool to guide consumers to their gifts. And Etsy have already done that. In January, they launched gift mode. You answer a few simple questions on their website. Who's it for? What are you looking for? What do they like? What do they dislike? And it suggests gifts for you. So this is how AI can be used from a retailer perspective to support you and drive more sales. So to summarise what we've spoken about today, footfall rose by 3.3% across all retail destinations last year, and experts predict that this will remain steady going forward. Consumer confidence increased by over half, and the forecasted personal finances are looking good. Confident householders are more likely to spend when consumer confidence has declined. From a watch perspective, the CMJ category is in positive territory. The independent sector is taking market share. And it's also worth noticing from a watch perspective that there is the Euros in June, the Olympics in July, and Omega is listed as the official sponsor. It could shine a light on the luxury watch sector. Experts also suggest that in a sports-heavy year, consumers tend to look to their health more, so smartwatches could gain more traction in the first half of 2024. Core jewellery, from bangles to initial pendants, we've already spoken about, and the bridal market is in a healthy position, but consumers are looking for those price-conscious pieces. Experiential retail. Which trends can you pull on to drive footfall into your store? Because consumers are looking for those experiences in your store, not just transactions. Thank you very much.